And joining us right now to sort of give us sort of a macro view of the state, the Lieutenant Governor here in North Carolina, and that, of course, is Dan Forest. And Lieutenant Governor, as always, appreciate you joining us here this morning.
Glad to be with you, Tyler, as always. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're surviving things down there.
Yes. No, like I said, where our building is, where I've been for the last 9 days, basically living, we, for the most part, not real problems. Some trees down, some powers down, some houses, but overall not that bad. But like I said, it's the surrounding areas, the Pender counties, the Brunswick counties, where we're seeing massive flooding, devastation. And just so everyone has an idea, I saw a stat this morning: 8 trillion gallons of water were dumped across North Carolina because of Hurricane Florence. I mean, that's just an amazing number.
My understanding was the graphic on that was somebody said you could fill the entire state of Texas with 4 inches of water.
Oh, my
that tells you how much that is. That's really pretty unbelievable. I don't know why they didn't say how many inches of water you can fill up North Carolina with, but
I know
that Texas is 4 inches.
Yeah, I know.
But listen, it's pretty unprecedented. It's obviously unprecedented, and it's obviously tragic. When has Wilmington been an island before?
Exactly.
This is. I was trying to think, and I need to do some research on this just to find out. But when in America have other cities been cut off like this? This is a pretty major city in our country that is cut off from supplies and traffic and all these kind of things for a long period of time. I don't know, it's unprecedented, but it's certainly unique, and it causes some real serious issues when Interstate 95 is closed. It'll be closed for another week. I-40 is closed. It'll probably be closed for another week and still underwater, and it really is pretty horrific out there.
Well, and, we're hearing about people who left, who evacuated, now they can't get back, and what worries me is that the people who left and have been gone now for 9, 10 days, maybe as you mentioned, not being able to get back for a week. What worries me is that people are going to go, well, I'm not going to evacuate the next time. And that worries me because there are people, I think lives were saved because you could see some of the damage in some of the areas by these evacuations.
Yeah. We did a flyover yesterday of probably a good, 3/4 of eastern North Carolina. I tried to at least cover all the flooded areas by helicopter, and it's pretty astounding, Tyler. I'd say that probably there's probably a couple hundred square miles anyway that are underwater. A couple hundred square miles underwater, and sometimes significant. And that's the water event. That's the flood event. This was a Category 1 when it hit, and I'm sure you've seen the images from Topsail Island and how the beach erosion happened there with the Category 1.
Yeah.
If this had been a Category 3, my guess would be a lot of those homes in Topsail on the beach would be destroyed, completely destroyed. And I think that you would have seen some serious destruction in Wilmington. Right now, there's obviously a lot of tarps on roofs and those kind of things. But, it really is serious business. And when the media drags these things out the way they do, and then they downplay a hurricane when it's a Category 1, and when you have the most significant flood event in your state's history and thousands of people, tens of thousands of people are homeless, when they downplay that, then you're right. I think people's attitudes change, and you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Well, it still is horrific for a lot of people across North Carolina.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Once again, we're talking with Lieutenant Governor here in North Carolina, Dan Forest, because the Saffir-Simpson model that the media, we all use, meteorologists use, that categorizes the hurricanes, it's a wind-based model. And so it's all based on wind speed. And I think you're right. To me, what was amazing, so, like I said, we were doing round-the-clock coverage, 24 hours a day. And, at some points, it was difficult. What are you going to talk about? And for a while, we had some news sources. We throw it to CNN or something and have them cover it because they have more resources than we have. But it was by Saturday. By Saturday, CNN was back to regular programming, and they just stopped covering the storm. Why? Because it was downgraded to a 1. And they were like, well, who cares? And they just moved on. And, CNN can do whatever it wants. But some people have said, you know what? We need to recategorize. And we might have talked about this after Matthew. But we need to recategorize hurricanes, and there needs to be a model for wind and flooding, because it's giving people the perception that, oh, no big deal. And they've moved on, and yet we're seeing, as you pointed out, Wilmington's an island. Other places look like Hurricane Katrina, and maybe we need another category for flooding.
Yeah, had Raleigh been located where Burgaw and Six Forks and these little towns in middle of eastern North Carolina are located, they're still under about 10 feet of water.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a section out there that we flew over yesterday that is probably 100 square miles that is under 5 to 10 feet of water. And I don't know where the water's going to go and how it's going to get out of there, but people's 2-story homes are, the second story may be sticking out, of the roof is sticking out, but it's your family, your neighbors, your brother and sister, your parents, everybody you've grown up with, and your entire community that is all underwater. And there's multiples of those. And that, and then you look at places like New Bern where the water hit and it was a big flood event. The media was there for a couple days. As soon as the floodwaters receded, they were gone, but the devastation's still there. So, we were down mucking out this guy's house a couple days ago. My staff and I went down, and they had about 5 feet of water in their house, and you have to tear out the sheetrock, and you have to tear out everything. This place is already full of mold 2 days after the water recedes. It's just full of mold, and you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of homes. Where do you put these people? Where are they going to live temporarily, right? How fast does FEMA come in? How fast do we get private organizations to come in and donate housing? Where do you put the workers that are coming into town? Where do you house them in a place like New Bern, right? That they just don't have hotels of that abundance. That you're going to have to be staying with people in people's homes. And the hard part is just starting right now because tempers are starting to flare. People can't get back in their homes. They don't have water. They can't wash their clothes. They don't have whatever. And now is when people's temperature starts to rise. And this is when the real tough work starts to happen because this is when reality sinks in.
Well, I saw 2 guys almost fighting McDonald's yesterday over like an order. And I said, uh-oh. I was like, things are getting heated. And like I said, we're not that bad off. And I'm like, the fact that we're eating McDonald's and we're getting hot food, I'm like, guys, come on. And they were about to go to blows over something. And I think it's the initial shock. Oh my gosh, thank God we're alive. And then sort of, we don't have this, we don't have that. And then people start getting angry and annoyed and tempers start to flare. But I think you are correct. This is where the really hard part begins. But I also wanted to say, this is also one of the reasons why I think so many people fought for the fact that we have a $2 billion rainy day fund, because now we are going to have money, because federal government takes time. State resources only have so much. And to have that $2 billion at our disposal, to me, seems almost like priceless at this point.
It is priceless. Absolutely, it's priceless. And we'll keep building that up. But, as you remember, there were people fighting this during the last election cycle, saying we don't need all that money, we need to spend it on other things. And they always have a long list of things to spend it on. But this is the biggest rainy day that our state's ever had. And we have $2 billion sitting out there that's going to do some. I mean, it's obviously not going to do everything. The federal government has obviously promised help. The president's very sincere, I think, about this, and he's put all his people on it. There's thousands and thousands of people working on this issue. So, but the time comes, where the government kind of swoops in and does the thing they can do, the federal government, and then they leave, and the other organizations swoop in and they do their immediate relief stuff, and then they leave. And once everybody leaves, there's still tens of thousands of people without their homes, and those homes need to be rebuilt. We saw that from Matthew, that there was still work done from Matthew with hundreds of millions of dollars sitting on the sidelines. And that kind of stuff, we have to be rapid responders. You have to do everything in your power to be a rapid responder, because you're talking about tens of thousands of homeless people in your state, right? And thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of homes that have to be repaired. And so it's a massive organizational challenge, and those challenges are always local. The state can't fix it. The federal government can't fix it. It's local communities that have to do the hard work, have to organize, have to get the volunteers, have to get the contractors in, have to house them, have to feed them, all these kinds of things, and that happens at the local level.
Absolutely. No, I mean, and I think you're right about, you have these amazing organizations, you have these churches, faith-based groups that have stepped up, providing hot meals for people. You have groups like the Red Cross and others that have come in, but those organizations exist mostly for the immediate aftermath, making sure people get food. Yeah. And then the long-term recovery, That is a lot of the state and local government, people insurance and everything else. But that's going to be, that's the hard part, which we lose sort of the national attention and everyone's sort of the spotlight on us. And then that's the problem because, now we have to deal with this situation going forward. And you're right about Hurricane Matthew, where it seems like some things fell through the cracks. And we got to hope that doesn't happen again. Now, before we go, because I got to go to a break here, what's your advice for everyone as we begin that process?
Well, I mean, the advice is especially for those folks, like you said, there's some challenges down where you are, certainly, and it's going to be a long time for recovery. But remember your neighbors. That's the advice. Remember your neighbors. There are people that are really, really hurting, not very far away from you. Mentioned Pender and Brunswick, places underwater, Lumberton right up the road, all these kind of places that are really, really struggling. So remember your neighbors, help, get your churches to organize, get your community organizations to organize to go help these people. This is going to be months on end. Don't think it's going to be done in a week or two. This is going to go on for many months, if not years, and that needs to be a steady drumbeat in North Carolina to show that, hey, we are different. We're going to step up as a community and as a state and help our neighbors out.
Absolutely. Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest, as always, I appreciate you taking the time joining us, especially during a situation like this. And we'll definitely be talking to you again soon because this recovery far from over, but the process in some areas has begun, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Tyler. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Once again, Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest, as always, appreciate him taking the time joining us here on the program.